If you look at in 2017, 18, there was a lot of cyber attacks, especially the ransomware kind of attack were happening in Europe. They need to focus on cybersecurity. It became an enterprise risk for them. The kind of impact of ransomware was quite high for them. And that's where they onboarded me on the global role of a global CISO, where I can help them to build the entire cybersecurity program and establish a well ISMS program, which can help them to mitigate from cyber risk. And that is how what's my journey, you can say. Luckily for me, I got an opportunity to work in different sector.
You've built various security programs across different industries. So, from a cybersecurity leader's point of view, how do you tailor your approach when it comes to maintaining a strong security posture, especially for various sectors of industries?
Simran, it's a very valid and important question, because when we talk about cybersecurity, we need to understand that each organization has different risk DNA. Mean each organization, each sector has their different business risks and cyber risk. And as I said in my previous, that I got an opportunity to work for different sector, and that's really helped. So how we do it, basically, whenever I start my building my cybersecurity program, I in first thing which I do is try to understand the risk culture of the organization.
Hi, you're watching the mainstream. I'm Simran Shiwalkar, your host for today, and we are back with a new episode from our exclusive series, Voice of Ciso. Today, I have with me Mr. Nilesh Gade. Nilesh is a global CISO at Bekaert with over 24 years of experience and being at the forefront of cybersecurity. He has been a driving force in shaping secure digital ecosystems across banking, IT services, and manufacturing. As the global CISO at Bekaert, he leads enterprises wide strategies to defend against evolving threats, build resilient architectures, and also align cybersecurity with business growth. His journey includes leadership stints at Aditya Birla Payments Limited, LTI, Adventity, and NSDL, where he laid down cybersecurity frameworks from the scratch. A multi time top 100 CISO leader and InfoSec Maestro awardee, Nilesh is not just a defender of digital assets, but he's also a visionary speaker who helps organizations thrive in a high risk digital world. And I'm more than thrilled to hear his insights. So, without any further ado, let's begin. Firstly, Nilesh, thank you so much once again. And like I said, you've spent almost 2 decades in this space now. So, if you could tell us a bit about how this journey began and any key moments that have shaped your path to becoming a global CISO.
Thank you, Simran. So my journey begins in early 2000 when cybersecurity was still it's in place of enterprise strategy. I started at NSDL, basically started with my IT security managing at the time when digital threats were just emerging. So over the years, key milestone I like building on one of the ISMS. So if you look at when I started in 20,000, NSDL was one of the first organization which went for digital transformation. Today we talk about digital transformation or automations, and but in 2000 it was a visionary project by the government of India where they digitalized the entire share market shares into digitalization. So you can imagine kind of value it was having. Almost 60% of GDP of India value was digitalized that time. And I got an opportunity to work with NSDL. Definitely as an organization, the value was quite high. We went for cyber security at that time. So we went for ISO 27000 in 2005 itself. So I was quite lucky to get an opportunity where to work for an organization which was fully digitalized, which has a cybersecurity at a very high stake. So you can imagine 2005 when we were talking about just IT, the NSDL went for ISO 27000. And I think that was the moment I got shifted purely from IT security into real what we call as a cybersecurity governance, risk and compliance. So I got an early exposure on governance and how to establish information security management system. Then definitely after that, I have got a very good opportunity to work with L&T Infotech, which is now LTI Mindtree. It's again a big global multinational organization, and that the security cybersecurity was quite different. I remember still it was approximately 108 different customers from Europe and US which we want to manage their cybersecurity compliance. So it was a very total different ball game there, managing such a multinational organization, ensuring that each of the delivery centers are well protected, my customer data are well protected, and because that is the kind of assurance I need to give my customer that your data is on the safe hand. Only then we can get the required business from that. And then definitely the Aditya Birla, which was another fintech startup organization where I got an opportunity to build the entire cybersecurity program from the scratch, understanding the regulatory requirement because it was a fintech financial organization. It was quite governed by the RBI regulatory. Luckily for me, again, I got a opportunity to start from the beginning. Even the bank started operation, I was joined them almost 1.5 years, where I developed the entire cybersecurity program for what kind of cybersecurity strategy should be there, what kind of cyber defense was there, and we built the entire compliance framework and implement for that. That I think that all this helped me to go to the global CISO role, that is in manufacturing, where Bekaert was looking for a global CISO. If you look at in 2017-18, there was a lot of cyber attacks, especially the ransomware kind of attack were happening in Europe. They need to focus on cybersecurity. It became an enterprise risk for them. The kind of impact of ransomware was quite high for them, and that's where they onboarded me on the global role of a global CISO, where I can help them to build the entire cybersecurity program and establish a well ISMS program which can help them to mitigate from cyber risk. And that is how what's my journey, you can say. Luckily for me, I got an opportunity to work in different sector. Usually if you see most of the CISOs or security professional, they always get an opportunity to work in particular sector, whether it be FI or insurance. Luckily for me, each organization was a different sector itself, and that's I think helped me to understand how the cyber security is across the sector, what's the value you can bring to the business, and how you can align your security strategy to the business. I think that's really helped me to position myself as a global CISO for multinational organization.
Wonderful. And thank you so much, Nilesh, for giving us a complete glimpse of your journey and how this has also shaped up your current role as a global CISO, at Bekaert. Thank you so much for that. And next, you've built various security programs across different industries. So, from a cybersecurity leader's point of view, how do you tailor your approach when it comes to maintaining a strong security posture, especially for various sectors of industries?
Simran, it's a very valid and important question because when we talk about cybersecurity, we need to understand that each organization has different risk DNA. I mean, each organization, each sector has their different business risks and cyber risk. And as I said in my previous, that I got an opportunity to work for different sector, and that's really helped. So how we do it, basically, whenever I start my building my cybersecurity program, I in first thing which I do is try to understand the risk culture of the organization. It is very important to understand what is their business requirement for cybersecurity program. It is very important to understand what are their concerns and need of the business to have a cybersecurity. It's very important to understand what are the regulatory and compliance requirement. So whenever I build my cybersecurity program, I ensure that my cybersecurity program is aligned to the enterprise business risk of the organization. I always ensure that the compliancy and the regulatory requirement is taken into consideration. So take an example, currently I'm working for Bekaert, and here when we talk about, it's a manufacturing organization, it's a multinational global organization. We approximately operate from 50 plus 65 plus countries. So it's very important for me to understand what is the business requirement and why they have started. So when you talk about manufacturing organization, it's not only about IT, but it's about the plant security, it's about operational technology security. When we talk about multinational organization which are data driven organization which has a more than 2000 intellectual property, it is about the protection of this intellectual property, financial data, trade secret which is there. When, as I said in beginning, also when I worked for LTI, the approach was different. It was more different because there we need to ensure that we give an assurance to our customer that their data is in safe hand. And most important, we were an ITS organization. So when the US customer and European customer, when they give their digital services or business to us, they also want to know, understand how you are protecting your own asset, what is innovations you are doing on cybersecurity. So it was always for me to build the cybersecurity program in such a way that where we can showcase the capability, we can showcase the advanced trend to our customer, so they can understand, okay, these are the new trends which are coming up, these are new cybersecurity approaches which are there, and that's give them kind of an assurance that that their data, their infrastructure, their data centers are in well hand. Definitely, I also got an opportunities where I also work with KP and NSDL. So I talk about NSDL, it was a totally government organization. So whenever you want to cater, always ensure that the business, you understand what are the business risks and align your cybersecurity risk to that. That's one thing. Second, definitely, I always adopted the industry standards. That is very important because industry standard like ISO 27001 or take an IST cybersecurity framework, it's really help you to you at that kind of posture, that kind of control framework, how you want to build. It's also depend on the maturity of the organization. So whenever I started my cybersecurity program, I always keep into mind to understand the culture of the organization and how much the organization is mature on cybersecurity, and that help you to understand and build your cybersecurity program. But it is always a balanced approach which I always take to ensure that organization have a no have a cyber resilience rather than just a protection around that.
Very well said, Mr. Gadev. And again, thank you so much for providing a comprehensive view on, how your approach is different when it comes to different sectors. Next, because we have already heard the buzz around emerging technologies about cloud, AI, even cybersecurity, the threats are also getting more and more complicated. The risk landscape is evolving. So, with this background, how do you ensure that the team always stays agile and ahead of the curve? Any best practices that you do in your team or your organizations per se, the organization that you're associated with?
The first thing which I do is I invest in three pillars, that is talent, technology, and threat intelligence. I think these are three. I mean, you can have best of the technology, but you need a very skilled resources, a very talent team to manage that. You are as strong as your team. And most important in today's world is all about threat intelligence. So threat intelligence which you get from internal security controls as well as threat intelligence which you gather from outside the world. So it is very important to that. If I look at the cyber threat landscape, it's evolving faster than ever. You rightly mentioned that, okay, today's cyber threat actors, they also have an access to the most of the latest technology like artificial intelligence, automations, and all those things, so which help them for an attack. So we need to understand we are no more dealing with just an opportunistic hackers. Today threats are very sophisticated, they are very targeted, and often state sponsored. So I have seen in the world now, we are living in the world where we have a ransomware as a service, AI driven phishing attacks are there, the supply chain are getting compromised, and all those things. So it's became, as a CISO, then it's became for me, it's to adopt a proactive mindset. So whenever I design my security program, I not only focus on prevention, I always ensure that there is a holistic cybersecurity program. And when I say about the holistic cybersecurity, it's mean that it's a detection, because today detection is very, very important. It's all about detection. How quick you can detect the malicious activity in your and how can you react. So detection, protection, and most important, how you can respond to that and how you can recover that. So I always ensure that whenever we have a cybersecurity program, it's a risk-based approach. It is holistic, where we focus on cyber resilience and not only on protecting. As I always also state that whenever best is to adopt the industry standard like NIST cybersecurity framework or ISO 27000, because it gives a very good framework for you to build your entire cybersecurity. I always say these are the minimum security framework you should adopt if you are really working for a multinational organization where cybersecurity risk is a really enterprise risk. And then you need to always ensure that you fine tune based on your business requirement, business threats, how your entire digital transformation is happening, how your digital landscapes are. I mean, you rightly mentioned most of the organization are evolving. The IT transformation, digital transformation is making the world quite different. After COVID, we have seen that there is a complete hybrid workforce. We have already seen as a cloud first, entire workloads are moving to the cloud. A lot of organizations are moving to SaaS based services
Right.
where the your workload is already in the cloud environment and that is not managed by you. You will have a scenario where your IT source, IT partners, they are managing accessing directly to the SaaS services. So it's become quite complicated IT landscape, digital landscape today. As a CISO, you need to be agile. Your team need to agile. You need to build such a program that your team always remain head of all these things. So if you look at cyber security, it's quite evolving. It is evolving quite fast, and it's very important as a CISO, as an organization, we need to remain head. So you need, as I said, it's very important to have a cyber threat intelligence for you. As I said, it's more focused on detection, holistic. That's also from the strategy. But how you're going to ensure that you are going to? So what we do is we always conduct something called as a cyber maturity assessment to understand where we are, what kind of maturity we have, and then another program which we initiated, what we call as a cyber risk threat management and risk quantification. This has really helped us to understand what are the emerging risks which are coming to us. Because something I said 5 years back when we built entire cybersecurity program where our maturity was quite different, our digital landscape were different, the threats were quite different. But after 5 years, when I see back now, my totally threat landscape has changed. My digital landscape has changed. As I said, we are already adopting a lot of SaaS services. We are already seeing that AI is is used as a weapon by the organization. The kind of instability we have seen, we are operating in various region of culture. So we always do some what we, as I said, an emerging threat risk assessment to understand what are the emerging risks which are there, and most important, what are these emerging threats are applicable to you, kind of business you did. And it's a collaboration. I mean, there is no harm in taking the help from industry security consultants and organizations. It's a collaborative world where we need to share the knowledge, we need to share the insight. So we also do the same thing where we rely a lot on outsourcing. We rely on our partner for security consultant to understand and do the risk assessment for. So risk assessment is very key to understand your risk appetite, your risk threat landscape.
Along these lines, Nilesh, I have another question for you because you've already spoken about being, future ready and having a risk, the understanding the risk appetite. Many CISOs struggle with boardroom alignment, is what we have come across. So, how do you communicate risk in a way that drives action at executive level?
Simran, it's a very, very important and valid question. So, if you really look, most of the CISO they are from the IT background and they struggle a lot when it comes to communicating with the senior management and board. So, I always said when you need to deal with the board, you need to speak in the language of risk and value and not technology or tech. See, board only understand the language of risk. What is the risk to their business and what value the program or initiative is bringing. So, as a CISO, I always ensure that when I communicate to the senior management, whenever I discuss with the board, we always discuss on the risk and the value of the cybersecurity initiative or the program is built and how that we do it. It's very simple. It's whenever we talk about any risk, we always talk about business impact. So I talk about that risk quantification matrix. So we did a program called where we did the entire risk quantification to analyze what are the cyber risks for the organization, what are the emerging risks which are coming it, and what kind of business impact it will have on the organization. That really helped them to understand if the cyber risk or attack happen on the organization, what kind of business impact, whether it's a financial risk, whether it is a reputational risk, it is a compliancy risk, or maybe purely an operational risk where the business will not be able to perform their business operation for a couple of days or week on that. So that is what we always help in terms of cyber risk. Another important aspect which always keep in mind is that how you, when you communicate to the risk, they understand what is a key performance index. So when for my cybersecurity program, we have built what we call as a KPIs or key performance indicator, which help them to understand what are the key risks, how our cybersecurity program is maturing it, how we are performing on those parameters. Another major aspect which I have seen when it comes to the board always like to understand how they are performing against their peers to similar kind of industry. So it is very important when we do a cyber maturity assessment. It is also important for to give them that visibility how an organization is doing compared to their peer organization. So that helps them to get that assurance it. Another important aspect when you're discussing with management and communicating with the board, don't give them lot of data. It's very important. Give them where the data which is required to them, which they can understand it. And another aspect which we are doing is that, I mean, at least in Bekaert, we have seen that the board has evolved a lot in terms of cybersecurity. Previously, it was just a risk and audit committee which was taking care of board level committee which was taking care of our cybersecurity risk. Now we have a dedicated team at the board level which looks after the cybersecurity program, and they understand security quite in detail. They also have their own consultants and they help to understand the cyber risk on that. So we ensure that whenever we have in a year, we have a couple of sessions with the board to make them understand on cyber security world itself, what is happening outside the world, what kind of cyber attacks are happening, what are the cyber trends are there, what kind of new security risk are there. That help them to get that visibility how the entire cyber security program or how the entire world is looking after the cyber security. And then you align your communication, your session, so that they understand what is there in the outside world or how the risks are there and how you're performing around that. Basically, as I said, it's very important for them to get an assurance that okay, you being an expert in cybersecurity, you have a full control on your cybersecurity program, and the cybersecurity risk is well tackled into that. I think that is a very key. We always need to ensure that we speak in terms of value that cybersecurity program is bringing. So for me, always, I said, regular board briefing always help me to improve my security awareness. And also, if I look at it, it's almost like a 5 million euro kind of buying I get from the board for my cybersecurity program. So that is a very important. Finally, you for any you go to board, you to give them assurance, but in definitely you also want them to support your cybersecurity program. You want them to fund you for your cybersecurity program and the resources which are required to that. So it's a value that is more important. Try to bring the value to the organization, highlight the value which your cybersecurity program is bringing through KPI, cyber maturity, and other initiatives which will help them to understand what value you're bringing to the organization.
Wonderful. And lastly, Nilesh, any advice that you would like to give out to emerging cybersecurity leaders who aspire to drive change and also make an impact at global scale? Any best practices or any key recommendations that you would like to give out today?
Yes, Imran, that is a trend which I have already seen that lot of organization, global organization are really focusing on Indian talent. They believe in Indian talent, that Indian talents, Indian CISOs can lead multinational organization. So there is a large opportunity for Indian CISO to become a global CISO. But definitely, as I said, it's very important for them to understand the business and what they need to do as a global at the global stage. So I will say to them that kindly lead with empathy, align with business, and build trust with the business. They need to understand to translate the security program from a control function to the value creator. That's why I always said it's more important that it's not about security controls and control function. It is a value which is bringing. So you should able to translate your security from a control function to the value created. That's very important. Second, invest in your team because you are strong as your team. So you need to invest on talent. You need to ensure that you have a skilled resources who can really help you to on your technology. Then last and most important, because you're talking about global CISO kind of role, these are multinational organizations and the cultures are quite different from one sector. Europe is quite different. You have a lot, they are the users and business are quite finicky on the privacy aspects of that. Whereas if you go to Southeast Asia like India and China, they are quite okay when you put security controls most on restricted. They want to restrict, they only want to give it require access or data which is required to perform the job. Whereas Europe and US, they are more on trust based model. As a CISO, you should be able to influence the cross culture, the function. You should be able to influence the board and management. That's will really help you to transform a security professional into true global leader.
Wonderful. Nilesh, thank you so much for this candid conversation. I mean, right from the challenges that CISOs face these days to actually getting to the nuances as how a cybersecurity leader can, from a cybersecurity leader's perspective, how you can build a team that is future ready and agile at the same time. And nextly, thank you so much for giving out these key recommendations to our audiences today. I'm sure there's a lot to take away from this session. So while we wrap up, I certainly look forward to having more such dialogues with you.
Simran, thank you for me giving an opportunity to speak on this. It really was wonderful session, and thank you very much for this session. And have a nice day.
Thank
Enjoy
you
your
so
day.
much. You as well. Thank you.